triggers, setting our intention, clearing our space, and then summarizing the last chapter, which was chapter 23. So we are now on chapter 24. Our binding is getting a little bit rough right here, but we'll be okay. Just gotta be careful. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and move the book out of the way. Start by setting our intention. I got some new tea lights. Not from IKEA, from Target. Alright. Okay. Doesn't want to light. There we go. Alright, so I set the intention that tonight's reading accomplish the greatest and highest good for all. Now let's go ahead and clear our space. Alright, perfect. Now, I'm going to set our homemade lavender essential oil spray right there. And now we're going to just clear our space a little bit more with the sage stick. Oh, shoot. Actually, I could probably just light this little piece on. Let's see how that works. There we go. Look at that. A little bit of smoke. There we go. Look at that. There we go. Set that right there. Okay, so in this chapter opens with Gamut and Hayward approaching the Huron village, which is typically unguarded, but the village children who were, at play appropriately warned the elders. They continue past the natives and seat themselves in the main building of the village, remaining silent. The room was dimly lit by torches, and Hayward put on his performance as a French doctor in somewhat of a jokester manner in hopes to win favor of the Hurons who were, feeling a little salty, or maybe very salty, about how things ended up going down. Just then, a war party enters and throws down and is the son of one of the elders and was killed by the father because the son was not brave enough in his eyes. The other is Uncas, whom Hayward recognizes as he tries to bravely to escape, but to no avail. The women mock Uncas for his failure, and then everyone leaves, leaving behind Hayward, Uncas, and the slain Huron. Okay, so that's where we leave off in chapter 23. Alright, let's go ahead and get started on chapter 24. Chapter 24. Thus spoke the sage, the kings without delay dissolve the council and their chief obey. Pope's Iliad. A single moment served to convince the youth that he was mistaken. A hand was laid with a powerful pressure on his arm, and the low voice of Uncas muttered in his ear, "The Hurons are dogs. The sight of a coward's blood can never make a warrior tremble. The Greyhead and the Sagamore are safe, and the rifle of Hawkeye is not asleep. Go, Uncas and the open hand are now strangers. It is enough." Hayward would gladly have heard more, but a gentle push from his friend urged him toward the door and admonished him in the danger that might attend the discovery of their intercourse. Slowly and reluctantly yielding to the necessity, he quitted the place and mingled with the throng that hovered nigh. The dying fires in the clearing cast a dim and uncertain light on the dusky figures that were silently stalking to and fro, and occasionally a brighter gleam than common glanced into the lodge and exhibited the figure of Uncas still maintaining its upright attitude near the dead body of the Huron. A knot of warriors soon entered the place, and reissuing, they bore the senseless remains into the adjacent woods. After this termination of the scene, Duncan wandered among the lodges, unquestioned and unnoticed, endeavoring to find some trace of her in whose behalf he incurred the risk he ran. In the present temper of the tribe, it would have been easy to have fled and rejoined his companions had such a wish crossed his mind, but in addition to the never-ceasing anxiety on account of Alice, a fresher though feebler interest in the fate of Uncas assisted to chain him to the spot. He continued therefore to stray from hut to hut, looking into each only to encounter additional disappointment until he had made the entire circuit of the village. Abandoning a species of inquiry that proved so fruitless, he retracted his steps to the council lodge, resolved to seek and question David in order to put an end to his doubts. On reaching the building, which had proven alike the seat of judgment and the place of execution, the young man found that the excitement had already subsided. basis of such supposed visitations, he saw at a glance that the circumstance might possibly be improved to further his own ends. It would therefore have been difficult just then to have uttered a proposal that would have given him more satisfaction. Aware of the necessity of preserving the dignity of his imaginary character, however, he repressed his feelings, and answered with suitable mystery. Spirits differ. Some yield to the power of wisdom, while others are too strong. My brother is a great medicine, said the cunning savage. He will try. A gesture of assent was the answer. The Huron was content with the assurance, and, resuming his pipe, he waited the proper moment to move. The impatient Hayward, inwardly execrating the cold customs of the savages, which required such sacrifices to appearance, was fain to assume an air of indifference equal to that maintained by the chief, who was in truth a near relative of the afflicted woman. The minutes lingered, and the delay had seemed an hour to the adventurer in empiricism. When the Huron laid aside his pipe and drew his robe across his breast, as if about to lead the way to the lodge of the invalid, just then a warrior of powerful frame darkened the door, and stalking silently among the attentive group, he seated himself on the end of the low pile of brush which sustained Duncan. The latter cast an impatient look at his neighbor and felt his flesh creep with uncontrollable horror when he found himself in actual contact with Magua. The sudden return of this artful and dreaded chief caused a delay in the departure of the Huron. Several pipes that had been extinguished were lighted again, while the newcomer, without speaking a word, drew his tomahawk from his girdle, and filling the bowl on its head, began to inhale the vapors of the weed through the hollow handle, with as much indifference as if he had not been absent 2 weary days on a long and toilsome hunt. 10 minutes, which appeared so many ages to Duncan, might have passed in this manner, and the warriors were fairly enveloped in a cloud of white smoke before any of them spoke. Welcome, one at length uttered, as my friend found the moose. The young man staggered under their burdens. Returned Magua, let reed that bends go on the hunting path. He will meet them. A deep and awful silence succeeded the utterance of the forbidden name. Each pipe dropped from the lips of its owner as though all had inhaled an impurity at the same instant. The smoke wreathed above their heads in little eddies, and curling in a spiral form, it ascended swiftly through the opening in the roof of the lodge, leaving the place beneath clear of its fumes, and each dark visage distinctly visible. The looks of most of the warriors were riveted on the earth, though a few of the younger and less gifted of the party suffered their wild and glaring eyeballs to roll in the direction of a white-headed savage, who sat between 2 of the most venerated chiefs of the tribe. There was nothing in the air or attire to this native that would seem to entitle him to such distinction. The former was rather depressed than remarkable for the bearing of the natives, and the latter was such as was commonly worn by the ordinary men of the nation. Like most around him, for more than a minute, his look too was on the ground, but trusting his eyes at length to steal a glance aside, he perceived that he was becoming an object of general attention. Then he arose and lifted his voice in the general silence. It was a lie, he said. I had no son. He who was called by that name is forgotten. His blood was pale, and it came not from the veins of a Huron. The wicked Chippewas cheated my squaw. The Great Spirit has said that the family of Wissentush should end. He is happy who knows that the evil of his race dies with himself. I have done. The speaker, who was the father of the recreant young native, looked round and about him as if seeking commendation of his stoicism in the eye of the auditors. But the stern customs of his people had made too severe an exaction of the feeble old man. The expression of his eye nation, and there was a short period during which the stoical constancy of the natives was completely conquered by surprise. The hated and yet respected name was repeated as by one voice, carrying the sound even beyond the limitations of the lodge. The women and children who lingered around the entrance took up the words in an echo, which was succeeded by another shrill and plaintive howl. The latter was not yet ended when the sensation among the men had entirely abated. Each one in presence seated himself as though ashamed of his precipitation, but it was many minutes before their meaning eyes ceased to roll toward their captive in curious examination of a warrior who had so often proved his prowess on the best and proudest of their nation. So maybe Magua was just reacting more like in a ferocious pride of like, ooh, look who we got captured type of thing, maybe. Uncas enjoyed his victory, but was content with merely exhibiting his triumph by a quiet smile, an emblem of scorn, which belongs to all time and every nation. So it's kind of like, yeah, keep it up, keep on laughing, bro, keep it up, you just wait. I feel like that's what was going on. Anyway, Magua caught the expression, and raising his arm, he shook it at the captive, the light silver ornaments attached to his bracelet, rattling with the trembling agitation of the limb, as in a tone of vengeance he exclaimed in English, "Mohican, you die! The healing waters will never bring the dead Hurons to life," returned Uncas in the music of the Delawares. "The tumbling river washes their bones, their men are squaws, their women owls. Go, call together the Huron dogs, that they may look upon a warrior. My nostrils are offended, they scent the blood of a coward." Okay, anyway, the latter allusion struck deep, like them's like some fighting words, y'all. Anyway, the latter allusion struck deep, and the injury rankled. Many of the Hurons understood the strange tongue in which the captive spoke, among which number was Magua. The cunning savage beheld and instantly profited by his advantage. Dropping the light robe of skin from his shoulder, he stretched forth his arm and commenced to burst of his dangerous and artful eloquence. However much his influence among his people had been impaired by his occasional and besetting weakness, as well as by his desertion of the tribe, his courage and his fame was an orator. However much his influence among his people had been impaired by his occasional and besetting weakness, as well as by his desertion of the tribe, his courage and his fame as an orator were undeniable. Storyteller. Maybe even a bit of a liar. Okay, he never spoke without auditors. Okay, so he was just like to show, sounds like. He never spoke without auditors or people listening, and rarely without making converts to his opinions. He wasn't like trying to get them on his side. On the present occasion, his native powers were stimulated by the thirst of revenge. He again recounted the events of the attack on the island and cleansed the death of his associates and the escape of their most formidable enemies. Then he described the nature and position of the mount whither he had led such captives. As had fallen into their hands. Of his own bloody intentions toward the maidens and his baffled malice, he had made no mention. That passed rapidly on to the surprise of the party by La Longue Carabine, and its fatal termination. Here he paused and looked about him in affected veneration for the departed, but in truth to note the effect of his opening narrative. As usual, every eye was riveted on his face. Each dusky figure seemed a breathing statue, so motionless was the posture, so intense the intention of the individual. Then Magua dropped his voice, which had hitherto been clear, strong, and elevated, and touched upon the merits of the dead. No quality that was likely to command the sympathy of a native escaped his notice. One had never been known to follow the chase in vain. Another had been indefatigable on the trail of his enemies. Well, I gotta know what that means. Indefatigable. What does that mean? Indefatigable is like unrelenting, right? Where did I say that? Yeah. One had never been known rooted in the burial place of the Hurons. You know they are not. Their spirits are gone toward the setting sun and are already crossing the great waters to the happy hunting grounds. But they departed without food, without guns or knives, without moccasins, naked and poor as they were born. Shall this be? Are their souls to enter the land of the just like hungry Iroquois or unmanly Delawares, or shall they meet their friends with arms in their hands and robes on their backs? What will our fathers think? The tribes of the Wyandots have become. They will look on their children with a dark eye and say, Go, a Chippewa has come hither with the name of a Huron. Brothers, we must not forget the dead. A redskin never ceases to remember. We will load the back of this Mohican until he staggers under our bounty, and dispatch him after my young men. They called us for aid, though our ears are not open. They say, Forget us not. When they see the spirit of this Mohican toiling after them with his burden, they will know we are of that mind. Then will they go on happy, and our children will say, So did our fathers to their friends, and so must we do to them. What is a Yankee? We have slain many, but the earth is still pale. A stain on the name of a Huron can only be hid by the blood that comes from the veins of a native. Let this Delaware die. The effect of such a harangue, delivered in this nervous language and with the emphatic manner of a Huron orator, could scarcely be mistaken. Magua had so artfully blended the natural sympathies with the religious superstition of his audience that their minds already prepared by custom to sacrifice a victim to the manes of their countrymen, lost every vestige of humanity in a wish for revenge. One warrior in particular, a man of wild and ferocious mien, had been conspicuous for the attention he had given to the words of the speaker. His countenance had changed with each passing emotion until it settled into a look of deadly malice. As Magua ended, he arose, and uttering the yell of a demon, his polished little axe was seen glancing in the torchlight as he whirled it above his head. The motion and the cry were too sudden for words to interrupt his bloody intention. It appeared as if a bright gleam shot from his hand, which was crossed at the same moment by a dark and powerful line. The former was the tomahawk in his passage, the latter the arm that Magua darted forward to divert his aim. The quick and ready motion of the chief was not entirely too late. The keen weapon cut the war plume from the scalping tuft of Uncas and passed through the frail wall of the lodge as though it was hurled from some formidable engine. Duncan had seen the threatening action and sprang upon his feet with a heart which, while it leaped into his throat, swelled with the most generous resolution in behalf of his friend. A glance told him that the bow had failed, and the terror changed to admiration. Uncas stood still, looking his enemy in the eye with features that seemed superior to emotion. Marble could not be colder, calmer, or steadier than the countenance he put upon his sudden and vindictive attack. Then, as if pitying a want of skill which he had proved so fortunately to himself, he smiled and muttered a few words of contempt in his own tongue. No, said Magua, after satisfying himself of the safety of the captive, the sun must shine on his shame. The squaws must see his flesh terrible, or our revenge will be like the play of boys. Go, take him where he is, where there is silence. Let us see if a Delaware can sleep at night, and in the morning die. The young men whose duty it was to guard the prisoner instantly passed their ligaments of bark across his arms and led him from the lodge amid a profound and ominous silence. It was only as the figure of Uncas stood in the opening of the door that his firm step hesitated. Then he turned, and in the sweeping and nodding glance that he threw around the circle of his enemies, Duncan caught a look which he was glad to construe into an expression that he was not entirely deserted by hope. Magua was content with his success, or too much occupied with his secret purpose to push his inquiries any further. Shaking his mantle and folding it on his bosom, he also quitted the place without pursuing a subject which might have proved so fatal to the individual at his elbow. Notwithstanding his rising resentment, his which they